There we go. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Can Do Links to Learning. Super excited. We have our guest speaker, Karen. She is back. Last week, she took us on a journey of basic banking. It was a really good refresher, really good reminder. And so we're happy and honored to have her back. My name is Michelle. I'm joining today. Normally, I'm in Edmonton and Misquitchee, Wisconsin again, but I am here in Sutina. So came down south. So honored to be in this land, to be in this territory. You know, as a Cree, I'm a guest to this part of our nation. So always it's important to acknowledge where you're from, the land that you stand on, you live on, you thrive, you survive, you work, you play, you do business. It's so important to acknowledge where you are. So I give thanks to Creator for this opportunity, this moment, that we can gather together in a virtual community and learn from one another, and just to grow. This journey is about growth and becoming stronger people. So hi to Creator for all of these opportunities and gifts that have been given to us. So thank you for joining us this afternoon. At the end of today's presentation, there is an opportunity for you to lend your voice to today's webinar. So an evaluation link will be sent to you. So we really invite you to respond to that. We always love to hear feedback from all of you. Your voice in this circle is important. All right, so you're not here to listen to me speak. You're here to listen to the expert, Karen. She's going to share her knowledge and her wisdom with us this afternoon. So we're delighted that you've lent your time here, Karen. You're joining us from New Brunswick.
New Brunswick. So yes, thank you for having me. And I would like to thank Creator and acknowledge that we're on traditional Willistic Way territory, unceded, unsurrendered Willistic territory. So I acknowledge that, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Woohoo! Thank you. I always love to hear. I always struggle hearing. I always struggle saying some First Nation community. So I love to hear that. So thank you for sharing where you're
welcome.
Yes. All right. So today's webinar is borrowing money. So this workshop is about credit, what it is, how to use it wisely, and how to get it under control when your debt is too big to handle. You'll look at different kinds of credit and the cost of borrowing, right? The Bank of Canada just had an interest rate hike. Something happened there. Maybe Karen will fill us in on that. So we'll learn ways to avoid the cost of piling up, so that if you need to borrow money, it is there for you. So today's guest speaker, the lovely, the one and only Karen Paul. She's the Indigenous Adult Learning and Literacy Program Coordinator for JEDI. She has been working with JEDI, which is the Joint Economic Development Initiative, for the last 5 years. So in her role, she provides Indigenous Workplace Essential Skills, digital literacy, financial literacy, upskills for work, and job search technique workshops to Indigenous clients across New Brunswick to help them bridge the gap between where they are presently and in the workplace. So she holds a bachelor's degree in computer information systems. So we're delighted that you are here, Karen. And so I'm going to pass this virtual mic over to you, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. So welcome everyone. This is our, I believe this is our third webinar out of the 4 series workshop that we're having today. So this one is about borrowing money. Has a little, on the shared screen that I have with you folks. Let me just minimize my screen here so I can see where I'm at. It talks a little bit on the cover of the Money Matters for Indigenous Peoples workbook. So we partnered with ABC Life Literacy and the Wabano Health Center in, let's see, the Aboriginal Health. It's in Ottawa. And anyway, we got together with them and they created this book for us, and not just for us, but for Indigenous people across our lands. So this one is a very nice cover on it. I think this is, out of all four, this is my favorite one. On the image on the front, again, this was created by Métis artist. Her name is Leah Dorion, and she's from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan. So beautiful image on the front. Normally the program is delivered in person, so I'm just going to kind of go through the workbook with you and get a chance to talk along the way. So they designed Money Matters for Indigenous peoples to help us better take care of ourselves by taking better care of our money. When we feel good about our money management, we're going to be less stressed. We'll have more energy for the things that are important to us. So that's part of what we do at ABC Life Literacy. We help Canadians get the tools they need to increase their literacy so they can live a fully engaged life. For this program, we work with the Wabano Centre for Aboriginal Health. The Wabano Centre for Aboriginal Health provides health services, education, and cultural events for First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities in Ottawa. They made sure Money Matters was helpful for Indigenous people. So Money Matters gives you basic practical information about your money. It'll help you better understand spending, borrowing, and saving, and how you can put the money that you have to work for you now. It also shows you ways to reach your long-term goals. We all need to have goals of some sort. You'll learn about registered savings plans for helping your money grow more quickly. And if you have children, you'll also learn ways about it to help you save for their future as well. When we're done, we'll have new knowledge and new questions, and we can talk all about it. We hope you enjoy Money Matters for Indigenous people. So this is from the ABC Life Literacy Canada, the Executive Director, Mac Roberts. So this is about borrowing money. How can I use credit but avoid the pitfalls? So if you've been through, your life, if you're young, you may not have any credit yet. If you're middle-aged, you may not have any credit yet. Some people like to just pay with cash, and that's a great idea if you can do that. But credit could sometimes work to your advantage. So what are we going to learn about this? Workbook is about credit, what it is, how to use it wisely, and how to get it under control when your debt is becoming too big to handle. We're going to take a look at different kinds of credit and the cost of borrowing. It's not free to borrow money. You'll learn ways to avoid the costs piling up so that if you need to borrow money, it's going to be there for you. So credit is about buying now and paying later. You can pay a fee when you use credit, and the fee includes interest and often service charges. So credit is buying now and paying later. Thinking about that, how could you do that? So if you drive by one of those buy now, pay here stores that have furniture that, you can go in and get the furniture, bring it home, and you won't have to pay for it for some time. That's a credit, whether or not it's in store, whether or not it's another company. When you get there, you have to fill out an application to another company for credit. All of that is still termed credit. So we're going to try to get in touch with our money by using a self-assessment quiz. So what to do? Think about it for a minute. Check off the statement that best applies to you, or just think about it. Think about your money, think about your needs and your life as it is right now. And have you ever put something on credit? Did you, or do you still find it hard to clear off your debit or your debt or your credit that you have outstanding? So one, you can say, I don't buy anything on credit. There's a lot of people out there that will refuse to buy with credit. They won't get a credit card. My brother was like that. He wouldn't do any e-transfers. He didn't want to do anything, pay his bills online. He just was so afraid of being online. So he refused to. 2, I owe money on a loan, but I always make my payments on time. 3, I worry about my debt. I can't sleep and feel sick about it. And none of the above applies to me. Here's my situation. So maybe perhaps you won the Powerball, or you won 649 or something like that you wouldn't have to worry about your debt. But in general, I think most people, if they have their debt under control, there's not much worry to it, because if it's under control, then you're paying your bills on time and everybody's happy. So it's only when you start to fall back on things that people don't become so happy. So is debt bad, or is credit bad? Is there such a thing as good debt? And is there such a thing as good credit? And what does it mean to use credit to your advantage? So is there such thing as good debt and good credit? Yes, there is good debt, and yes, there is good credit. They're two different things. Good debt is just all of your credit that you have that you can use towards your tax return. So you would use mortgages, student loans, all of your business expenses probably would be all incidences of good debt, because anything that you can use as a deduction on your tax return is considered good debt. Good credit, on the other hand, so credit agencies take your information, your monthly payments, they record them so that they keep track about every month when you're making your payments. So they got a pretty good clue on how you are at repaying your loans. So that's what your credit score determines, is how good you are at repaying your loans. So have you made a spending plan before? So in order to get your finances into a good place again, you have to have a spending plan. And if you have a spending plan, then great. Did it show that you spend more money than you make? Which is kind of scary, because if you're spending more money and then you're spending $800 in a week and you're only making 500, you're going to start running into trouble very quickly. Are you making up any shortfalls by going into debt? So now if you're falling short that $300, are you borrowing it from somewhere else in order to make that payment? So now that you owe that other payment now in order to pay the $300 back. So be careful what you do with your credit, and making sure that when you use your credit cards or you get a secure credit card, make sure that you know what your terms and conditions are. Make sure you know what you need to know to pay it back, what the interest rates are, what your charges will be if you go over the limit, or if you miss a payment. All of those things will be taken into consideration when something bad happens. So they'll know when you missed it, or if you borrowed it and you didn't pay it back and you missed a month, it'll get recorded on your credit report. Did it show that you spend more money? So are you making those shortfalls? So try not to do that. Try to find your spending plan. And once we went over the first spending, the first workbook that we went over was about creating a spending plan and how you put your needs and wants on a paper, and then you determine what's your really needs. Your needs are what you need to live: food, shelter, and housing, and water. You need your car to work. So all of those things are needs. The wants are, could be, you think you might want that, you put it in your need because you really think you need it, but really you don't. It should be in your want column. So you go through that honestly and determine what on those lists are in your wants that should be in your needs, or in your needs that should be in your wants. Having debt usually means that you're spending more than what you're making. And when you're not watching your money, debt can catch you by surprise. Any questions? Okay, so Skylar and Crystal, this is activity 3. Skylar bought a big screen TV on a buy now, pay later deal. He bought the TV on a whim, seeing that the offer in a flyer and figuring he couldn't pass up such a good deal. Skylar also has a Visa card, credit card, and a credit card from a department store like Walmart or something. Sometimes he has to get cash advances on his Visa to make the minimum payment on his other card. But so far, he's managed to juggle things. I don't think it's a very good way to juggle things. Crystal, on the other hand, her bank suggested that she get a credit card to start building a good credit history. She puts a few things on the credit card each month and pays the full amount that she owes when she gets her bill. Crystal was glad that she had the credit card when she unexpectedly had to buy a plane ticket home to the res. Her mother was ill. Crystal went to visit her mother in the hospital. So having that credit available, because she had her credit card, she's starting to build her good credit history. They gave her an amount that she's allowed to use each month. And because she paid that in full, now she had that whole credit limit available again. So if her plane ticket cost her $300 and she just paid off her $300 bill, that means she has a zero balance and she's not going to have any trouble using that card because she took care of the balance. It's when you don't take care of the balance, the whole balance. So if you can't afford to put it on a credit card and you can't afford to pay it in cash, then don't put it on a credit card, by the end of the month. But if you know you're getting a big settlement this month and perhaps you want to, get that bedroom suite or put something on credit and you're getting that money, then by all means, do something like that and then pay it off when you do get your money. But it's when you don't have the money and, you try to struggle with paying that off, and it might be a little bit too much for you to handle at the time. So bad debt and good debt. So what are the warning signs that Skylar is on a fast track to big money trouble? What do you think? I think that he is using a credit card and putting stuff on it and then borrowing from it in order to make minimum payments on the next card or credit card, whatever he's doing. So those are, what else could you think that he's doing that he's not, that's not very good? So if we look at Skylar again, back up, he went on a buy now, pay later offer. He thinks that they're really good, right? But really you're going to pay interest out the wazoo, and you're going to be paying for the next 10 years for an item that is not even worth half the value when you're done. So that's the problem there. He has a Visa card and a credit card from the department store. He gets cash advances and gets himself into trouble. So try not to do that. When you're having problems making ends meet, avoid the buy now, pay later offers. The fees and the high interest rates, if you don't pay on time, will add to your existing debt load. And it certainly will add to your existing debt load because the interest and the fees when you're late or when you're over the limit or something like that, it's just horrible. So try to keep that on top of that. So what does Crystal do differently than Skylar when it comes to her credit card? So she was able to get back home to her reservation to visit her mother on the res when she got ill. So, and because she paid her credit card off last month, she had that fresh card available to book that ticket for her airplane ticket. So if you are disciplined, credit cards can be a great tool. Only use them for costs you can pay off when the bill comes in. So if you're waiting for per capita or you're waiting for your royalty money come in, and it's coming in on Friday or Monday or, within the end of the month, then go ahead, use your credit card if you wanted to. That's what it's intended for. But it's also intended for you to pay that balance off when you get your bill. So if you can't do that, and if your check didn't come in or something, then you're going to be stuck with that bill and hopefully get it paid before the end of that month. So one important thing to know is when the date of your credit card or another payment is due each month, and you're going to avoid interest and late fees. Check it out on your bill. So it's going to show you what your credit limit is, what your interest rate level is, when the rate is increased, when does that happen? So it happens when you miss your payment, and we'll go over all of that in this session. And it's clearly spelled out. So it's really important for you to read that information page on the back of your credit card bill when you receive it in the mail. So is a pawn shop a kind of credit? What do you think? True or false? Anybody? Taking your stuff to the pawn shop. Is it credit, do you think? Well, yes, it is actually, because it's getting money and you're getting a loan, a schedule to pay that loan back. So pawn shops are a kind of credit. It's a loan and it's money that you've borrowed. You agree to pay it back according to a pay schedule, and there is a fee. It's not free to borrow money. So we're going to think about interest. Interest is a fee that you pay to borrow money. It's added to the amount that you borrow. You pay back the loan plus whatever the interest rate is. So any time you're trying to get a loan, make sure that you're trying to get the lowest interest rate. Last week, we talked about getting your higher interest rate, but that's only for when you have a savings account or a little combo checking account where you would want a little higher interest rate. You would ask them for a higher interest rate so you could make more money off your money. But when you're borrowing money, you're going to try to get that interest rate lowered because that's what you're going to have to pay in order to borrow that money. It's added to the amount. So the ways to borrow, you can get a payday loan, which is a short-term loan from a cash store. You see them all the time. I'm sure in the big cities where you are, you see them, money stores, cash stores, or whatever. The fees are very high. And if the loan isn't paid back by the due date, interest rates increase a lot. So that's a payday loan. Buy now, pay later. It's like Rent Town or something like that, where they have furniture and washers and dryers, appliances, stereos, TVs. And you go in there and sign a contract to say you're going to pay X amount of dollars for it. It's an offer by a store where you get the item now and you agree to pay the full amount by a due date. If you don't pay in time, you often have to pay a high interest rate starting from the date that you got the item, the date that you signed up for it or you received it. Rent to own. You rent an item, and after a period of payments, you own the item or you may purchase it. You don't own the item while you're renting it. You end up paying much more for the item than if you bought it at the start. That's a rent to own place. A lease, you rent an item for a period of time, but you don't own it. And at the end of the lease, there may be some hidden costs, such as wear and tear on a car. So I'm in that situation now where I have a leased vehicle and I have to return it in November. So I have to have it in good working condition. It has to be so many miles on it, and any damage to it needs to be repaired. So it's in almost the same condition as when you first got it. But they will consider wear and tear on the vehicle as well. So a pawn shop is a place where you get a loan by using an item you own as a deposit. If you don't repay the loan in time, the pawn shop keeps the item. So if you're stuck, you need to pawn something at the pawn shop, you take your gold jewelry or your gold necklace or your gold something, go in, they give you $100 towards it. You sign the paper and you give them your gold and they give you $100 and off you go. So if you don't pay that within the agreed time, they're going to take that gold jewelry that you pawned and they're going to put it on their display case to sell it to get their money back. And then you lose it. So don't consider pawn shops a bad place. I mean, they're good in a short, if you're short on money in a moment, but try not to use them because they are kind of risky. A bank credit card, it's a credit card from a bank or another financial institution. The interest rates and the fees vary, and there are low interest credit cards. A retail credit card is a credit card from a store, let's say Walmart, or Macy's, or any of stores that you would find across Canada, Old Navy. The interest rate is often much higher than a bank credit card. So consider that when they say, would you like to sign up for a credit card? If you have a current credit card, it's usually a lower interest rate off a major credit card than it would be for a store credit card. So keep that in mind. There's a line of credit. It's a loan where you can borrow money when you need it. The loan is pre-approved. So if the bank approves you for a $5,000 line of credit, then you have $5,000 to use. The interest rate is often lower than a credit card or any other type of loan. So this is the best way to borrow money, is the line of credit. You can get a cash advance on a bank credit card. You take out a cash loan on your credit card. So you take it to the ATM, put your card in, cash advance, put in your debit card, your PIN number, say how much you want, boom, out it comes. But that interest rate is going to be a little bit higher than a line of credit, and the amount is less than a payday loan at the same time. So it's about in the middle. It's not as good as a line of credit. It's not as bad as a payday loan. It's about in the middle. Your overdraft account, it allows you to withdraw more money than you have in your bank account. And you pay interest on the amount that you've borrowed until you pay the amount back in your account plus the fees. It costs less than a payday loan. So overdraft is a pretty good way to borrow money as well. If you don't have a credit card, you can apply for a secured credit card through your bank, a credit card where you make a payment before you can use it. So you go into your bank and you say, I'd like to apply for a secure credit card. Here's $500. So you give them, the bank, $500. They send you in the mail a secured credit card, looks like a credit card, got your name on it. And then you use that as a credit card like you had a $500 limit. So you go and get your gas, get your groceries, maybe you do a little shopping for yourself. You spend $300. So you put it on your card. When you get your bill, you pay that $300 back. And then you'll do that over a period of 6 months. And then you're going to show to the bank how responsible you are about repaying the money. And that's what's going to get you into a regular credit card. So a secured credit card is given to you at the beginning to prove your worth. Just tell them that you're going to be able to pay this back. You're going to be responsible about it. You're going to use it and pay it back in the month so there's no interest, all of that. So usually the credit limit is the same as what you've already prepaid. So your credit limit will be $500 if that's what you give the bank at the beginning. After about 6 months or 8 months, you'll get your a letter in the mail with a real credit card saying, wow, you did great. Here's your real credit card. You got a $1,000 limit, and they give you back your $500 that you use for a deposit. So it's a really good way to start on the road of building your own credit history and for your credit score. You can go on creditkarma.ca if you have credit, and you can get your free credit score that way. When you do sign up for your credit score, it will give you an opportunity to look to see if there are any negative or delinquent accounts on your credit. It'll show you what they are. So then you can begin to start clearing off those things off your credit score if they're on there, and work toward increasing your credit score. So you can get a personal loan. It's a loan for personal use rather than a business. It's also called a consumer loan. The interest rates vary according to your credit history. So if you have an excellent credit history and you've got a really good credit score, then the chances of your loan being a low interest rate is pretty good. If your interest rate, if your credit score is not that high and you've got a couple things in there, like you made a couple of late payments, then you may get the loan, but it's going to be at a higher interest rate. It varies according to your own credit history. So that's why it's so important to work on getting that score up as high as you can. So I think the highest is 900, and I don't know what the lowest is, 300 or 400, I guess. But sometimes if you don't have any credit, Credit Karma won't be able to give you a report because you don't have anything in it. And that's where you would start on getting a secured credit card at your local bank to get yourself started up. And then after you make these payments, it'll show up on your credit score where you've made them on time and as agreed upon. A mortgage is a personal loan for buying a home. It's often considered a good debt. Interest rates vary. If you don't make your payments on time or at all, you can lose your house. It's called, when they do a, what's the word I'm looking for? Foreclosure. That's what's called a foreclosure. Student loan. A government loan to help pay tuition and other costs. It's often considered a good debt. The interest rate is low. You pay back the loan at a set time after leaving school. And I think it's usually about 6 months before you have to start repaying your student loans after you've graduated or you've finished school. So what are some good things and bad things about the different ways of borrowing? If you have to borrow money, and what makes the most sense to you? So in this chart, we're going to compare the cost of a payday loan with other types of short-term loans. So based on a $300 loan taken for 14 days, we look at the different axes on this chart, and it shows that in order to borrow $300, the cost from borrowing on a line of credit is $1.15. The cost for the overdraft protection on a bank account is $2.42. The cost from a cash advance on a credit card is $4.13. And the cost to get it from a payday loan is $50. So you can see the difference between a payday loan and a line of credit, the difference. It's $48.85 difference to be exact. So stores often offer interest-free deals for purchases made with the store's retail credit card. But if you don't pay the money that you owe in full by the time the interest-free period ends, you'll get charged interest from the date that you made the purchase. So that's pretty scary. That's why he's saying buyer beware on the little left-hand side with my stick man, because that's pretty scary because the interest rate is all added up and then you got to pay it all back because you didn't pay it by the end of the date. Since the interest rate for store cards is higher than for bank credit cards, this can end up costing you a whole lot of money. So how does interest work? Let's say you borrow $100. Your interest rate is 20% per year. So there's your 520s is 100. APR is short for annual percentage rate. Annual percentage rate is the rate of interest charged on a loan each year. So annual means yearly. So if you don't pay back the amount that you borrowed in time, 20% is added on top of what you owe. So now your $100 loan becomes a $120 loan. And the amount that you owe can keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's because you pay interest on the interest. This is called compounded interest. And this is why it starts to add up very, very quickly. So now it becomes 520s at the top, the extra 20. Now it's an extra 20 and another $4. So now it's up to $144 instead of just 100. So that's only in a period of a month or two. Now it's going to be even more because you're paying interest on $144, not $100. So some credit cards also have penalties for missed payments, such as raising your annual percentage rate. Some have service charges and annual fees, and the amount that you owe can grow even more and more and more. So be aware of what your interest rate is and be aware when your due date is, and have your stuff, all your money ducks in a row, that your things are being taken care of and it won't grow out of control like this by missing payments. So you're sleeping on an unbelievably lumpy bed. We all need a good rest to function well, but you just don't have the cash to replace it. Sometimes we all have to borrow a little money to make ends meet. So let's assume that your new bed will cost $200. This is an old book because it's way more than $200 for a bed. So how will you pay? You could pay with a credit card, a payday loan, or a line of credit. Assuming that you pay back the loan in 1 year, calculate how much each loan will cost you. So a new cell phone costs $60. The cost of borrowing for 1 year is on a payday loan, 25% plus a $10 service fee. On a line of credit, it's 5%, and on a credit card, it's 20%. So figure it out with the math. On a credit card, $60 times 20% is $12. There's no service fee with the credit card, so the total cost of the loan ends up being $12 on a credit card. On a line of interest, line of credit, pardon me, it's $60 times 5%. That's $3, and there's no service fee to get that loan through the line of credit, so it only ends up being $63 instead of $144. And then the payday loan, 63, is 25% plus a $10 fee. So 60 times 25 is $15. Then you got to add the $10 fee, which makes it 25. So now that payday loan ends up being $85. So you can pay 85, 63, or 144. No, that's not right. Sorry, 72, 85, or 63. So $63 is going to be your best bet coming out of your line of credit loan because it's the lowest interest rate and there's no service fees. So when you're considering going to get a loan, really look at the interest rates, look at, make sure you know if there's any fees or anything that are going to be coming along with that. So I'll give you an example. I joined Planet Fitness and they said $10 a month. Okay, so I went down to the gym and I went in and I said, okay, is it $10? Like, well, no, it's not really $10. It's $10 if you want just the black card. It's $30 if you want to be able to use the massage bed and the massage chair and all of that. So I signed up for it, $30. It was coming out of my account, $30, and then all of a sudden, 3 months later, I get this $85 charge that came out. Well, in my contract, after I read it all, I didn't read the fine print of them saying that yearly there'll be an $85 service fee. So yeah, I wasn't too happy about that. So the cost of borrowing is on a credit card, $12, on a payday loan, it's 25, and on a line of credit, it's $3. So if you can get a line of credit at your bank, certainly try to use that way as to, to borrow money with. So let's try it with the purchase of the bed. So $200 for the bed, 20% interest ends up being what? $40? Anybody? All right, so 200 times 0.20, $40. There's no service charge. So the first one on a credit card is $40. Payday loan is 200 times 25%. That's $50. There is a $10 service fee, so that's going to be $60 on a payday loan. On a line of credit, 200 times 5%. Let me try that. 200 times 0.05 is $10, and there's no service fee, so the total cost of the loan on a line of credit is $10. So you can see clearly that the most inexpensive way to borrow money would be through a line of credit that you can get at a pretty good rate. Any questions so far? We're doing good. We're about 6:37. So suppose you have a balance of $500 on a credit card and the amount stays the same for a year. What's the better deal for you? So a credit card with an interest rate of 19% and no annual fee, or a credit card with an interest rate of 12% and an annual fee of $50. So the balance is the money owed on the credit card. That means what its interest fee, your interest fees, your annual fee, and your annual cost, or whatever it is to do that every year. That's the balance. So if you have a $500 balance and then the interest on it is this, and a late payment is this, and a late and over the limit payment is this, it ends up being the balance owing. They'll add all of that up so that you'll know how much you owe. So to figure out the interest that you pay for a year, multiply the balance owing by the interest rate and write the interest rate as a decimal. For example, 19% is 0.19 and 12% as a decimal is 0.12. So a credit card with interest rate of 19% with no annual fee, so the balance is 500. You multiply that by 0.19, and that gives you $95. There's no annual fee, so it's $95 straight. On the credit card with an interest rate of 12% and an annual fee, you take the $500, multiply it by 60%, which is, by 12%, sorry, which is $60. You get an annual fee of $50, which is a total of $110. So just by looking at those two, you can tell which is the cheaper way to borrow, which way you want to go. So you're going to want to get that credit card with the interest rate that's just a little bit higher, but there's no annual fee. That's what you're really going to want to look for. But other times, the annual fee and the low interest rate may calculate to be less. So you have to figure it out at the time. So work with a partner to do the money math. What is a better deal if you have a balance of $1,000? So if we take that, you double that 500, it's going to be 180. Or 190, 95 and 95, 18, 190. And then the other is 500, it's going to be 220. So again, it would be cheaper to go with the 19% with no annual fee. You could do the same thing to calculate different interest rates on different cards. You could have $1,000 balance. You multiply that by 19%, no annual fee, it's 190. And on $1,000 with $120 dollars in interest and a $50 annual fee totals up 170. So in this case, the second one would be better with the annual fee and the lower interest rate. So like I said, you just need to figure it out when you're shopping around for different cards. Make sure you look at the fine print and look to see if they have an annual fee, and try to get the lowest interest rate when you are trying to calculate that out. So paying off a credit card in full each month or getting rid of a debt altogether saves you money since we're paying no interest fees. You're also building yourself a good credit history. So reducing the amount that you owe even a little bit saves you money since you're paying less in interest charges, because that's what's going to get us all in the end, is paying those interest charges. So your credit history is information collected about how long it takes you to pay back money you've borrowed. It is kept in files stored by at least one of Canada's major credit reporting agencies. So there are TransUnion, I believe, and Equifax, and let's see, Credit Karma is another one that you get your credits for. And there's another app in there called Borrow Well that you can use to I think it's used to compare credit cards. So taking a first step, pay off your first debt with the highest interest rate. That's what you got to try to do. When you're thinking about it, if you do have credit cards or if you do have payments and loans and stuff, you know, look at them and see what your interest rate is. It doesn't hurt to ask the bank. can you lower my interest rate? Because I've been so good at paying back my loan. You started out at 16%. Can you give me a break? Can you lower it? And at times they will. They really will lower your interest rates. All you have to do is ask. And if they find that you've made payments on time and everything's good, then they'll go ahead and do it. So here's the best order for me to pay off my debt so I save the most money. So mine, of course, would be credit cards, because those are always the highest interest rates. So do you know the annual percentage rate on your credit card or a debt that you might owe? And how much money do you pay each month in general? If you don't know, how are you going to be able to find out? So the minimum payment on the minimum amount is the minimum amount that you're required to pay on a credit card bill. So when you get your bill, it'll say minimum amount is $25. But just making the minimum payment is a bad plan. Not only will you be in debt for a very long time, you'll also pay a ton of extra money in interest. So always remember that. Try to make double your minimum payment or $100 payment or something, just so that you pay a little bit on your principal and you'll pay a little bit on the interest instead of just paying on the interest. So here's some signs that your debt is too big. I use my credit card to buy small purchases. My credit card is maxed out or close to the limit. I borrow to pay my credit card and other debts. I skip payments. I use payday loans to get by. I have less or no money left for food because of my debt. If I needed extra cash for an emergency, I'd have trouble finding it. And I worry about my debt. I can't sleep and I even feel ill about it. So if you checked off any of those things, then maybe your debt is getting a little bit too big and you need to pull the reins in a little bit to get better control of that. So a money word is a creditor. It's the person or business that has lent you money. So if you got a loan from RBC, then RBC is your creditor. If you got a payday loan from somewhere, that's your creditor. If you got a car loan through GM Financial is your creditor. Call your creditors and explain your situation if you can't pay your bills. In most cases, they will work out a payment plan that will make it easier for you to pay off your debts. So if one or more of the above statement applies to you, then your debt is too big. What can you do and what help is available? So find out the contact information of a nonprofit credit counseling service in your community. Credit counseling provides help when your debt is too big for you to manage. This might help include calling your creditors to reduce your interest rates and late fees. So if you're at your wit's end, don't know what to do, don't want to file bankruptcy, call a credit counseling agency and they can put your bills all together and they can give you a monthly or a weekly payment that you make. You won't have to reach out. The creditors are not allowed to contact you after you meet with a credit counseling agency. They are the ones that talk for you. They are the ones that call them on your behalf to ask to get your interest rate and some of the fees taken off. So going to a credit counseling agency will even help you reduce the amount that you owe, because they can convince your creditors that you're in this program now and you're looking to reduce your debt. So they can take off a lot of those late fees, a lot of those over the limit fees, and get you to a more manageable amount that you can manage. So is it in your best interest to have a credit card? If so, what kind? If you have a credit card now, is it the best one for you? So think about that. You have choices. Know your interest rate, that they vary greatly. Choosing the right card can save you lots of money on your payments. Know the service charges and fees. Some cards have an annual fee, and does the annual fee save you money in interest charges? And know the costs of the reward programs. Some credit cards offer rewards for using the card. Are the rewards worth more than your interest payments? So think about that too, because a lot of times people will I have an RBC card that has rewards, and the rewards allow me to either buy something from their website or I can use it to transfer the points to make a payment on one of my bills. So that's what I normally do. So here's my most important thing when choosing the credit card. I'm going to look for the lowest interest rate when you are looking for a credit card. If you can't pay off your credit card, switch your balance to a personal loan or to a line of credit that has a lower interest rate. You'll end up paying less in interest charges on the money that you owe. So you'll see them balance transfers that you can get through credit cards. You sign up for a credit card through them. They'll give you a 4% interest rate on any balance that was transferred from another card. And you end up owing less money in interest charges on that new card. So that's another way to kind of, lessen down your, what you have to pay. So look on the information box, be sure of the details such as fees and interest rates before signing a contract. That's the first and foremost thing, is look to see what you're signing for and what you were agreeing to, because once you sign it, then it's hard to change it. One way is to read the information box on the credit card application. Check out a sample of an excerpt from an information box on the next page. So I'll show you that in a sec. An information box is a boxed area on your credit card agreement and also on the statement or the bill that you get each month. It tells you important details about your credit card. So when you apply for a credit card, you agree to accept all of the terms and conditions, including interest rates and fees. You read the entire application carefully before submitting it. And what would you do if you had trouble reading or understanding a contract? Has a pushy salesperson ever rushed you to sign a contract? A signed contract, remember, is a legal document of agreement between you and another person or a business. You are responsible for what you sign. So be sure of the terms, be sure you know what your terms of your contract are before you sign it. So this is a sample information for a credit card agreement. The initial credit card agreement is for $5,000. It tells you what the annual interest rate or rates are. So these interest rates are in effect on the day that your account is activated. Promotional rate on purchases is 4.99% for your first 3 monthly statements. Purchases are 19.75 following the promotional period. Cash advances are 21.5%. Balance transfers are 21.5%. So your interest rate is going to increase to 24.75% on your next statement if you make a late payment, go over your credit limit, make a payment that is returned for non-sufficient funds, fail to meet any of the terms in the cardholder agreement. So if you do any of those, they have the opportunity to raise your interest rate to 24.75%. There's what's known as an interest-free grace period, which is 21 days. So when you use the card to make your purchase, you're going to benefit from an interest-free grace period of at least 21 days if you pay off your balance in full by the due date. There is no interest-free period on cash advances or on balance transfers. And the determination of interest, if interest is charged, it is calculated on your daily average balance and charged monthly to your account on the last day of your billing cycle. So that's how that works. So protecting your money. So do you check your monthly credit card statements to make sure that all transactions were made by you? If you don't, please do that, because there's so much people that are trying to hack your accounts. You don't know if you're purchasing things or if someone else is purchasing things with your card. Covering your keypad to protect your PIN is important. Choosing a PIN that is hard for someone else to get is really important, and keeping it secret. And refusing to give your credit card information on the telephone or through email is very important. And know how to contact your credit card issuer right away if your credit card is stolen or you find transactions that you did not make on your statement. I know over the past weekend, there was an issue with RBC Bank with disappearing e-transfers in people's accounts. So that was interesting, but it looks like I think they got that all straightened out now. Personal PIN, PIN number is short for personal identification number. And have you ever been a victim of credit card fraud? I know a lot of people have been victim, as myself once. If so, how was your personal information or credit card stolen? So my information was compromised at Home Depot quite a few years ago by using my debit card there. So I had to get a new debit card through my bank. And then I got some credit reporting service on my credit account for the next, I think, 2 years they gave that, so that it was some type of protection. So that was really good. And I could not have prevented the fraud, because once you put that credit card number in your merchant's computer or whatever, they have the information. And if they're not keeping it safe as they can, as they should, then hackers can breach that information, and then your card number will become at risk. So credit card fraud happens when someone steals your credit card, your information, or your PIN number, and use it without your permission to make purchases in stores, online, on the phone, or to take money out from an ATM machine. And people will do that and get caught up in that whole stealing thing. So this is just a little word search puzzle that they talked about. You can see that it's just credit card and PIN and all of that information. Define each word. So APR is annual percentage rate. Identity theft is when someone takes your information and makes it as their own, like they're pretending to be you. Interest is what they charge you at the bank to lend you money, what you pay back. Credit card is just a card that you use to, make credit payment. You make purchases on and pay back within the end of the month. Your mortgage is a loan for a house. Your PIN number is your personal identification number, keeping secret. Your credit score you can get at creditkarma.ca, free for a year. You can go to Equifax and get that free once a year. The information is in there, and you'll be able to look at it to see if there are any discrepancies and work on it to make the score higher. So have you learned something today? That's it, what we're going to do today. But it asks you if you've learned something today that might change how you use your credit card. And if you feel that you have, you'd like more information to help you make better borrowing decisions, what else would you like to know? Is there anyone that has any other questions? It's a pretty basic course for borrowing money for basics, but it gives you enough information about learning to save money around interest. So that's my story. Back to you, ladies.
Hi, Karen. That's a good story. I feel like it's very empowering and how we ought to manage, take care, be aware, educate ourselves when it comes to credit and debt. That's so important. So it made me curious, during this your presentation, what my credit score is. So it always is good to kind of keep an eye on that. I remember a couple of years ago. So if anyone has any questions, get ready. I'm going to open the floor. But I was thinking back about when I was financing a car. And they had said, so I had an all right credit, but they had said, well, you are kind of late with your mobility, like with your TELUS. And, I just don't think of it. Sometimes you think, okay, I'll just pay it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then didn't realize just waiting that extra day past that due date does affect you, right? So then, and I didn't know, I had no idea, because all I knew is it's getting paid. And missing that due date did put me in a different interest rate. So that was something. So that's a really good reminder.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so Ken is saying, thank you, great advice, time well spent, and I agree with you, Ken. Interested in hearing more on debt consolidation. It can have a bad name, as it may sound more like a gimmick for sale. So do you have any thoughts on that? And then the other question is, any tips on youth and post-secondary? As youth are often given credit easily. I agree with that, Danielle.
Well, I think debt consolidation is good for you if you can find one that has a lower interest rate than what interest rate that you have on your current debt. So I think that if you've got credit cards that are high and you've got interest rates that are high and you've got high payments and you're struggling to pay those every month, and there's 5 or 6 different ones, then yes, a consolidation loan might help, because it may lower your interest rate on the loan for all of them. So if you owe 5, 5, 5, 10, so that's $30,000 you owe. So you may be able to get a loan for 4%, rather than pay the big 30% on each one of them and struggle and get the interest added on every month. So as far as youth and post-secondary, I call them predatory lenders. And I think that this kind of information should really be passed on to kids in high school, because when they come out of high school, and I think it's really important that kids coming out of there should take a course like this, so that they are aware of what's going to happen to their future if they sign up for all of these predatory loans. And they get themselves all caught up in credit because college life is great and grand. You go there and you think that you've got the world if you've got a $5,000 credit card. And by the time you're done in your first year, now you owe $5,000 and all the interest. So informing post-secondary education students before they head into that direction, before they head into school, because they're all going to be waiting for you at the gamut. They're all going to be at the main door waiting for you, saying, hi, come on over here, come on over here. But if your children are knowledgeable and they're informed, they're going to say thank you, but no. That's my thing on post-secondary and the predatory lenders that shouldn't be allowed at the schools when the children enter, because they're not aware enough where they're going.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Even in my own experience,
Yes,
no knowledge of that. And then, oh my goodness, I have to pay this back. And oh my goodness, I have to pay more than what I borrowed back. Like,
yeah,
I think that this information is really, really important for our young people.
it sure is.
Empower them at such a young age instead of like later on. And then, we're adults and we've learned those lessons, but we don't have to pass on that. We can teach them, when they're, yes, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
There was a meme that I actually read and it was so fitting, like how we go to the bank to borrow money to go to school, and then we find a job so that we can pay back the bank for what we borrowed, right? So it's kind of this cyclical energy, I think that happens. So, but I think,
and I think that children also should be aware that right now, we can get at times help from Indian Affairs for your tuition. So try to go down that path first and get help from your tribe first, rather than just going to get a loan. Kids should be aware that at times your band will help you to go to school, or they'll take care of books or take care of tuition and, all of that. So just giving them the knowledge that they need to make good decisions in their life.
100%. And I also, again, liked what you had to say. And you said this last week as well, have that conversation with your bank, create that relationship, that good relationship with your bank, and say, hey, this is how much interest I'm paying on this credit card maybe, or this loan. Can you is there a way you can reduce it? So I really like that. That feels very empowering.
It does.
The worst that they can say is no. But what if they say yes, right?
That's right. You're going to save yourself a little money.
So I really appreciate that reminder. So thank you so much. So are you back next week, Karen?
One more week. We're going to talk about our RSPs and some other ways to save.
I love it. I love that conversation. All right. Yeah. I mean, it was good. I like in the chat box, Danielle had said, knowing more about collection agency details and how that affects you is a huge point that should be also shared with the youth as well.
Right. Yeah. Know what they're going to get themselves into before they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power. That's right.
All right, Karen. Well, thank you so much. And everyone else, thanks for joining. I hope you feel empowered to look at your finances and have those conversations and just, read, do some research on your own as well. So have a good rest of the day. Oh, yes. And don't forget to take part in the survey that will be sent out to you. So be well. Hopefully we'll see you next week for Karen's final webinar with us. I can't wait. I love talking about our RSPs. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a good rest of the day.
Bye, everyone.
Be well.